Oh, something's just coming up. Right, okay. Got it. Lovely.
Okay. Hello there. It's a Monday afternoon. It's August, but it feels more like November here. I don't know about you. It's really not the best weather, but hey ho, it is Britain after all. So we've got lovely Natalie here. Natalie, you joined the programme Happy and Free Teacher Academy in February 2021.
I did.
It's now August, as I just said. So you've sort of been on the programme, and you took a bit longer, didn't you? You took a slightly different path to the standard one, which we'll talk about in a moment. So Natalie, do you want to tell us what you were doing at the time when you reached out and booked that first call with me back in February, I believe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was working at a secondary school as head of languages, and I'd been there for nearly 4 years, been in teaching for nearly 6 years at that point. Basically, every day was really tough, you know, coming home crying, just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. I had a very young child at home, and I just felt like something had to give, and it wasn't going to be my family, it had to be my career, which I wasn't sad about because I had no time, I had no life. I was working every hour God sent. I was, you know, I had no free time for anyone, you know, for myself or for my family. So I was at the point where I was looking for an escape. I was looking for a way out. I know what to do.
Yeah, so you were looking for a way out of teaching. You saw something in a Facebook group, or was it an ad that led you to clicking and booking the free call with me? And can you tell me a little bit about that initial call? Like, was there something? I remember you telling me about your struggles with the job itself, and of course you had your little girl, and you felt that you weren't dedicating the time that you wanted to being there for her, even though you had Fridays. Am I right in thinking you were part-time, weren't you? So you were actually...
Yeah, I had Fridays off, but I was still working on my Friday. I was, you know, getting up and I was on my laptop despite my little girl being around. I was, you know, waiting for nap time so I could get down so I could do some proper work. So it was just a really frantic day where it was meant to be my day off and I was still working. The only day I really had off was a Saturday, if I was lucky, and then I'd spend all day planning and marking on a Sunday.
Yeah, so that's the life of a part-time teacher. That's pretty
yeah,
you know, it's quite telling, isn't it, that even though you tried going part-time, you were still working all the hours and feeling like you were trying to split yourself in all sorts of directions. So we talked this through, didn't we, on our initial call, and we talked about what impact this could have on your life going forward if you stayed in this position. And I remember you quite distinctively saying to me, no, this isn't doable anymore. We've got to get out of this. And so at that time, did you have any idea what you could do instead of teaching? So we talked about different things that different programs that we can create together, different ways of getting you out of the classroom and earning money. What other ideas did you have at the time?
I think at the time I had a few options going around my head. I knew obviously I'd have that support as well with you and that guidance. So in my head I was thinking I could do something language based, maybe like workshops, still going into schools, maybe going into nurseries and primaries, doing language workshops. So that's something that crossed my mind. I also used to be a hypnotherapist years ago before I went into teaching, so that was something I thought I could go back into that at a push. And actually randomly at the time it felt too far away. It felt something that was unachievable, and although it was definitely an option, it wasn't an option I was really considering, just because I just felt so out of touch with it. So actually I knew I had options, but I had no idea where to go.
Yeah, and we talked about, didn't we, how you could actually rekindle your love, your passion with hypnotherapy, and actually create a flexible, like, online version of a program that you could create and deliver from anywhere, and look at ways at how we can replace your teacher salary and have more time with your little girl and build a life that you actually wanted. So we had that sort of conversation, didn't we, initially? So at what point during that call do you remember thinking, I'm just going to do this, I'm going to do the program? And what were the doubts that you had? Because I know that financially you did initially think there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So that's a bit about that.
I think when you said on the call, when I said to you, I don't know if I can afford the full program, I don't know if I could afford to do that. And you said, can you afford not to do it? And I said, no, I just can't afford not to. Like, you know, my life was not my own. You know, it was a really challenging, I mean, few years, but, you know, it got really difficult. So when you said that, I thought, I can't, you know, I have to do this. I absolutely have to. And I know, obviously, we worked out a program that would work for me so that I could work independently on it. And that would work for my finance, you know, my budget as well.
Yes, we worked that out, didn't we? So although for those watching this, you may know my full program involves lots of intensive one-to-one coaching and also group coaching. And that's a 12-week program which you can access live elements, but you can also work in the background on the modules as well. So what Natalie and I agreed to help, you know, suit her budget was that she would do a self-study version of the program, but she could reach out to me when she needed to on email. So that's what we did, and it meant it was affordable for you. We broke it down into 6 monthly installments. So, and how did you feel that worked out? Did it feel like financially manageable? Did it have a big impact on you having to make that payment, or did you actually find it was okay?
No, it was absolutely fine. You know, breaking it down into those smaller monthly payments was fantastic for us, and, you know, really manageable, and actually just made it all possible. And even though I was doing the self-study, I think that really suited my position, because I didn't have the time to do the weekly coaching. You know, my little girl's quite demanding, doesn't sleep very often, so I didn't have, you know, the time to dedicate to it. So I knew if I did it independently, I would be able to manage my own time and then touch base with you when I needed that support.
Yeah, fantastic. It worked really well. And I mean, one of the things that people often look for in a coaching program is that they know that by touching in regularly with their coach, there's a little bit of accountability. It makes them keep going, people on track. So that's often the better option. But you actually really stuck with it despite not having that regular contact. You actually did. You managed your time really effectively. You were still working in that job. You still had your little girl, you know, and lots of sleepless nights, but you actually made it a priority to actually log in and go through the material. So how did you find that? You know, did you manage to balance that okay, or were there some weeks where you just had to just drop it and I'll pick it up when I can?
Yeah, there were definitely days where I just didn't have time. But what I said to myself was, obviously there was a little bit of something listening and a little bit of work to do every day. So I'd take the dogs out, and that would be my time, and I'd plug in, I'd listen to you on my dog walk, go around, and I'd come home with all best intentions to do that little bit of work towards it. And I'd really try and push myself. I mean, I was having really late nights anyway, doing all my workload for school, and I'd really try and push myself to get that done. And if I didn't, I'd be like, right, I can do that tomorrow. And if I fell behind for a few days because we had a pinch sort of week at school or something, I would catch up, and I'd try and spend like a day on a Saturday catching up. So yeah, I did fall behind sometimes, but I was never too far behind that I wasn't, you know, amidst what was going on. So it was just, I think it just made it easier for me to be able to do it on my own time. And then falling behind wasn't a big deal, really. It was okay.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I always say, there's no behind, you know. You are,
yeah,
if you're doing it on a self-study basis, you've got the 12 months access to the program. Yes, the program can be done in 12 weeks. If you really need to get out of your job in 12 weeks and have everything done, and know that you can hand in your notice and go at a certain point, then it can be done in 12 weeks, but it doesn't mean it has to be done in 12 weeks. So the self-study option, you know, is giving you more than enough time. So we're now in August. So yeah, you've spent, you know, 7 months working through it perhaps, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. And so where are you now, Natalie, now that we are 7 months ahead? So thinking back to February, that call that we had, the way you felt, the way things were, that perhaps like you couldn't see the woods for the trees. Could you tell us what's changed in the last 7 months? What big shifts have happened for you?
So obviously the biggest one, leaving teaching. So I handed my notice in just before Easter. So I did it early as well. I did it earlier than they needed me to do it because I was really committed. You know, and part of the things that you talked about in the coaching was, you know, decide on your date, decide when you're going to do it. You know, we'll work on the how and the when and everything, and do it. You know, we built up all that confidence, didn't we, in the course, of having that faith and taking that leap of faith almost. I mean, there was a lot of work behind that as well. So I decided on my date, which was going to be Easter, to give me the Easter holidays to think, right, I've done that now, and I'm still working through the course. So that was a huge shift, that I'd actually had the confidence in the future and had the confidence in the course that I would be able to hand my notice in, knowing I'd have something meaningful and successful at the end. I've got my life back. I feel like I've got my time back. Physically and emotionally, I feel like a different person. You know, the stress that you can hold in your body, I mean, everywhere, it's horrendous, and there's never an escape. You know, even though I talk about Saturdays were my day off, it was never a day off. It was a day of thinking, oh, well, I don't have to worry about doing work today, but I was certainly thinking about it, and I was certainly thinking about the week ahead. So for me, that huge emotional, physical pressure of the stress that I had for years has now gone. You know, I don't have that, you know. Yeah, it's gone, it's lifted. It's just, you know, you have your little stresses of day-to-day little things, but it doesn't compare, you know. It's something that you can just breathe away, whereas teaching, it's a really intense pressure. So that's gone, and I do feel like a different person. I feel happier. I know I'm happier. I can feel the difference in, you know, my personality and my thoughts, my own thoughts, even though I'm tired all the time because of my little one. Not having that stress means that I can have happier thoughts about things. You know, you can get into that really negative rut of thinking negatively about everything. When you're really stressed, everything's even more stressful, and you awfulize things. So that's changed. That's a huge shift. And probably another one for me as well, I was very hesitant about going back into hypnotherapy. I just felt like I'd lost touch with it, but actually it was a real passion of mine, and I looked into hypnotherapy and studied a course when I was younger, in my 20s, and I loved it. And I did Reiki, and I did loads of different things, and I think I'd closed a door on that, because when I went into teaching, I just didn't have that time to dedicate to any of it. And sadly, for a few years, I didn't really look into it anymore, and I thought, yeah, I can't really do that anymore. It's not an option for the future. Whereas I started looking back into it, and I signed up for a specialist course in past life regression, which is my area of passion and expertise. And I've been studying that course just to refresh my skills and my knowledge, and it's just clicked back into place, and it's made me feel like, yes, this is what I need to be doing. So that's fantastic. So I've opened that door again to all those things that I loved doing and I was passionate about when I was younger. And language teaching is still going to be part of my future as well, because I'm going to be doing workshops, language workshops for 0 to 11-year-olds. So I'm going to be doing my own business, and I'm also going to be doing my language workshops, so I can build my business gradually and not have to worry financially about, you know, making a certain amount of money straight away. So I've got 2 things that I absolutely love, and that's all going to be kicking off in September.
Yeah. Wow, what a change. You actually do seem like a different person, like just the way you're holding yourself, you know, you're speaking so enthusiastically about future now. But I'm sure you can understand the fears that so many teachers have when they think about, how am I going to get out of this? I've got a mortgage to pay. Like, I'll use your word, which is brilliant. We awfulize things, don't we?
Yeah.
No way I'll be able to survive unless I know I've got this money from that teaching salary coming into my bank account every month. What would you say to somebody who is in the same boat as you, or similar position to you, having those feelings, having that dread, wanting to leave, but thinking the finances are just going to get in the way. Do you have any sort of advice for them? Like, how did you go about working out what you needed to earn to be able to contribute what you needed to contribute to the household income? And what would you advise someone who's letting the finances sort of hold them back?
Yeah, well, that was me. Whenever we spoke together, that was my biggest hurdle, was the finance, because I was the main breadwinner. So actually, my income was the main income. Although my husband's got a fairly good job, it's not particularly well paid. So I felt the pressure of that, although my husband was hugely supportive. But what I would say is your course dedicates a lot of time into the money and the planning side of things, and also your emotions around money. So that's definitely really helpful. So the course isn't just straight into, let's start looking at a business that you can build. It really works with, okay, let's think about the money side of things, and let's think about how you think about money. So I spent a lot of time thinking about my relationship and my thoughts about money, and maybe my thoughts were limiting myself. And I was definitely worried about it, but at the same time, working through you about the money and the finances, I was able to use your spreadsheet to calculate some scenarios of how much money I might earn doing certain things. And using that, I'd sit down with my husband and I'd use it, and we'd key in things, play people here, I could make this much money that week. And if I built it up over time, because your spreadsheets allow you to sort of build it up over the 6-month period kind of thing, I could be hitting this figure here. So actually, there's so much planning and support with finances on your course. It took those worries away. So I would say to anyone who's worried about money, you do live to your means. You absolutely do. But also, if you feel limited by money, I think it's a mental thing. And I actually feel like, whether you believe in this or not, you can definitely attract more money. You can manifest more money into your life just by thinking positively and putting the right actions in motion. And I think if you've got doubts about the finances, the first part of the course will take those worries away for you.
Fantastic, Natalie. I'm so glad that you found those tools useful. And you're absolutely right that the way our relationship with money is based on stories and things that we've learned from being an employee, right? So of course, our salary is limited because we're not in control of that. It's a set amount. We live in teacher land as well. We live in terms of the annual increments and TLRs and pay scales. It's all very set in stone. We have no control, very little control, do we? So we start to internalize that and think, well, that is what it is. That's what money is. Money is a finite resource. It's going to run out. I haven't got enough. The scarcity, the lack, the fear, all of those thoughts kind of have created our story about money, and that it's going to run out. There's never enough, that kind of story. And it feeds that story, doesn't it? Whereas when we come out of employment and become self-employed, we actually takes time to realize there isn't really a ceiling. I can earn, like, you play with the scenarios, and you can earn double your teaching salary if you wanted to, or more, by being a high-end service, by serving more clients in, having a group program rather than a one-to-one, or having a high-end one-to-one service. There's loads and loads of ways you can create the income that you want, and it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be soul destroying and giving your finite resource, which is time, away to something else, to somebody else. That's my very long-winded version of I totally agree with you. It's a mental shift that needs to be made. We can't just say, right, jump out of work and of being an employee, and now you're self-employed, off you go. Here's a business model, go and do that. There's all of this work that needs to be done as well, isn't there? They go hand in hand.
Absolutely. And it does make you think that actually in teaching, we work all of these hours every week, so many unpaid hours weekly as well. which is just expected of us. And if you put that time into your business and your marketing and you know, growing your business from scratch, then you know you've got so much time to do that. And then you, like you said, you don't have a ceiling of, you know, a financial limit. There's abundance, isn't there? There's lots of money to earn.
There is lots of money to earn, absolutely. One of my coaches used to say, what if we spent more time thinking about how to earn more money instead of trying to spend less? You know, we can put so much energy in like trying to be, you know, frugal and, you know, let's just keep within our limits, when actually if we just shifted the energy that takes up onto how to make more, then that's when we can tap into that abundance, right? So
definitely.
Brilliant. Natalie, I'm just going to see if there's anything else. I think you've pretty much taken us through the whole experience in such a lovely way. And, you know, thank you so much for your honesty. And I know this is going to be really useful for people, because I think the financial worry is often the main barrier, I think. But often it comes down to lack of belief and awareness about how we can generate income. So, fantastic. So in a nutshell, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about booking an initial call with me? I offer a free call. I also we're going to start doing some mini workshops as well to help people make some, you know, get some plans together and get their ideas into motion for how they can free themselves from their teaching job. So I know that some people might think if they get on a call, it's going to be salesy, it's going to be pushy. Did you feel like it was like that at all when we had our no obligation?
No, it was really supportive, and I was very emotional at the time. It was a really good call just to assess where I was in life, and for you to listen, basically. So I would say book that call, because it will be possible. And I booked that call when I was so desperate to escape teaching. I think it was December I booked the call, and I booked it for January.
Yeah.
With that dread of going back to school after teaching. After Christmas, and that call gave me so much hope, and it gave me real perspective of what I could do for the future. So it was that first step, which is risk-free. You know, it's not pushy at all. It's really supportive and informative. So book that call, absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Natalie. Thank you, and I'm really glad you did, and I'm so pleased that
Me too.
You know that everything is all onwards for you now. And thank you for putting your faith in me and my program. It's been an absolute pleasure having you be part of it. And thank you for sharing your experience with others. I think it's really important. I think, isn't it? Like you feel like you know that's a contribution. I always feel like as a teacher, I'm always once a teacher, always a teacher. I still consider myself a teacher. Sharing our story is important, isn't it? It's like it makes it mean something.
Yeah.
Like something that we've been through can help somebody else by sharing that story. So. Really appreciate
Absolutely. I never would have thought I would be in this position now, where I'd left teaching and I had just an amazing future ahead of me. I never would have thought it was possible, especially, you know, I came back from maternity leave, we had nursery fees going out, all of those things. I had so many things that I had responsibilities, you know, to pay. And I would say, you know, anything is possible.
Fantastic. That's a great phrase to end on there, Natalie. So thank you so much, and I wish you every success with your hypnotherapy business and your language workshops. And I know that this won't be the last time we speak, I'm pretty sure of that, but
no, it won't.
Now all the best with it all, and thank you, and I'll see you again soon. I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.